I'm Rick Crosslin, and welcome to another Family Science Summer Safari, where your science adventure begins in your own backyard. And today, not only is your backyard, but it's the sky above you, because today we're going to explore weather. Now, if you've been in any of my classes, and you can see some of the lessons I've attached to this week, you know that I explain weather by three things: the amount of water or moisture in the air, the temperature, and the amount of pressure, air pressure. And if you learn those three things, you too can be a weather person or a meteorologist, someone who studies weather. So in your kit, you're going to find a thermometer that looks like this. You're also going to get this gauge right here, a rain gauge, which is pretty cool to collect the amount of water, the amount of heat, and you're going to have to work on the pressure on your own. But you also have to build, it's a cloud chart that looks like this. I'll show you how this works in a little bit. So you'll build this, and with these simple tools, you too can be a weatherman or a weather girl, and you can learn about this in your own backyard. So the first thing we'll talk about is the water cycle. And because it's the sun that drives all of our weather. It's the heat from the sun that causes liquid water to evaporate, go up into the sky, condense in clouds, and then fall as precipitation. And you know the 5 types of precipitation that we studied. There's rain, snow, sleet, hail, and fog. Those are the 5 types of precipitation to look for. So there's a lot of activities in this week, and one of them is for you to keep records of the weather in your backyard and to identify the different clouds. And you'll see all of that on our journal. This is another web that you can see, a little circle here, a weather cycle. And I made this with toothpaste and words like evaporation, condensation, precipitation. And remember, it's the sun that powers all of this, including the wind. The uneven heating of the land and the water causes some air to expand and some to contract. So our wind, our weather from the sun. Now, there's a lot of water in our atmosphere. In fact, water is so beautiful and so important to us that you are filled with water, about 70% of you. The same water that's up in those clouds is in you right now. And you get rid of water like basically three ways. You either sweat it out, or you go to the bathroom, or you breathe it out. Here's an experiment you can try. I got a clear cup right here, and you focus in on this. Watch this. I'm going to breathe in this cup, and the moisture coming out of my body is going to condensate or collect on the inside. Ready? Look at that. It turned completely cloudy, but it won't stay that way long because this heat is taking this water that came out of my mouth into the air, and it's going to join those clouds. So if you think about a water cycle, all water that you've drank has been in a cloud, come down as precipitation in the ground, and probably when you drink water, it used to be in a dinosaur. And I hate to say this, but that dinosaur either breathed that water out, urinated it out, or maybe sweat. I don't know if dinosaurs sweated, but when you drink, next time you drink water, and you have to drink water because you won't survive without water, remember, you're not the first to drink that water. So some of the tools you're going to use today has to do with this thermometer, and it was actually invented by 2 different people, Fahrenheit and Celsius. Scientists like to use the 100 scale, the Celsius scale, but we usually use the Fahrenheit scale. And it has to do with when the air gets hot, and you can learn a lot about what is your low and high temperature or your average. But if you look at the temperatures you're going to take, in the morning it's going to be lower, it's going to rise, and then in the evening go back down. I wonder what causes that up and down, that cycle of temperature every day. Maybe you know. The second thing is to put this in your yard, and it collects amount of rainfall. And put it somewhere like not under a tree, but out in the open, and in fact, make your own weather station. And when it comes to wind, this, in one of the videos on this week's lesson, is a homemade wind gauge or an anemometer. Now, one of the oldest scales we used to use was the Beaufort scale of wind, and they could look at a flag, or they could look at smoke coming up or something being blown, and they had a scale of 1 to 10. But I brought with me a fancy anemometer. I turn it on and I see, oh, it's starting to rotate a little bit, and it's telling me that it's 0.2 miles per hour of wind. Oh, 1.3 miles per hour. I don't know if you can see that. And this is a pretty cool instrument to show you the wind speed and the wind direction. So it's coming this way. So we've talked about temperature, we've talked about air pressure, and we've talked about moisture. But I love these clouds, and we can make a cloud, and it's called cloud in a bottle. That's one of my lessons. Here's a bottle. I'll put a little bit of air in here, a little bit of water in there, air, and I'm going to change the pressure. So by doing this, I'm going to squeeze this here. And when I squeeze this, I'm putting it high pressure. And high pressure, this is a good thing to remember. If you hear on the news or on the weather that it's high pressure, you're going to see clear skies. When it's low pressure, you're going to see clouds. And so right now, I'm putting all this pressure, I'm squeezing and squeezing, and I'm increasing the pressure inside this bottle. And I'm going to make a really quick, rapid depressurization. So this thing is really high pressure, and it looks pretty clear. Now watch this, get close and watch what happens when I open this. You're going to hear a pop, and all that high pressure is going to change to low pressure, and we're going to have a cloud in a bottle. 3, 2, 1. Look at that. You can actually see it coming out the top there. Condensation, a cloud. Which brings me to this pretty cool cloud identification. Because if you know what kind of clouds, you know what kind of weather we're having. Let me show you how we use this. So, as you can see, I've got my cloud identifier here, and I'm looking at that wispy cloud high up in the sky, and I'm going to guess that that is a cirrus. Cirrus, and all those words actually have meaning. Like cumulus means piled on top of. Cirrus, and so stratus and nimbostratus, and all these clouds are associated with a type of weather. And so we have high, above 18,000 feet, cirrus clouds, clear skies, good weather. So this is a cloud identifier. There's also a link from NOAA and NASA, Introduction to Clouds, which is way cool, and one of my favorite websites, the Cloud Appreciation Society. So you can get both of these on the journal links. And I tell you, we've had several tools we've talked about. We've talked about the rain gauge and the thermometer, and both of those are in your kits. But there's one thing I also like you to do this week, and that has to do with severe weather. Knowing the difference between a weather warning and a weather watch. And I would like you and your family to sit down and come up with a severe weather plan. And basically, that means where you're going to go, what are you going to have, and how are you going to know what to do. And that you can look on some links that I have in the journal with the NOAA and the Weather Institutes about a best way to be safe. Because this little tornado, this is my little tornado tube, Indiana is kind of famous for tornadoes. And we need you to know, check this out, we need you to know where to go to be safe in severe weather. So have fun, learn about the weather. It's in your own backyard.